Hi, this is Anita from Real Estate Crunch. Today we want to talk a little bit about what are the tenants' rights. And this is specific for the United States, but really a lot of these things are throughout the world. But of course, like many things to do with real estate, the rules, regulations, and other things can change according to local rules and state or other type of regulations. What are tenants' rights? Tenants' rights are basically protections afforded to individuals who rent property. These rights are to ensure that the tenant lives in a safe, habitable environment and are treated fairly by their landlords. Tenants' rights are established by a combination of federal, state, and local laws. So there's a couple keys that each tenant has for their tenant rights. One is the right to a habitable home. In other words, when you rent a place, you are basically expected to rent a place where the utilities work, there's heating and water, and the landlord will be responsible for necessary repairs. You have the right to privacy. You have a right that the landlord isn't going to be entering your property when you're at work or any other time that they feel like it. You basically have the right to privacy. Landlords may need to enter the property from time to time if they need to do repairs or do inspections, but they must give you at least 24 to 48 hours, and it must be agreed upon. You have the protection as a tenant from discrimination. And when they say about discrimination, it's discrimination for race, color, national origin, religion, sex, familial status, and disability. So all of these are, give you protection under the Fair Housing Act. You, as a tenant, have the right to review and understand the lease. So tenants have the right to review their lease agreement thoroughly before signing it. Now, if you are, with the landlord and the landlord trying to get you in a hurry, you don't need to read it, just sign it. That for me would be a red flag. You should take your time, read the lease agreement, make sure you fully understand what you are signing, and go through every part and question, even say, hey, what does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean in the lease agreement? Make sure that you fully understand what you're signing before you sign it. Tenants should never sign a lease if they do not understand or agree to its terms. As breaking a lease terms can lead to eviction, and it could lead to you losing security deposits and lots of other things. So you really want to understand what you're signing. You can have protection from retaliation. Tenants are protected from retaliation by their landlords for exercising their legal rights. So in other words, if you have a landlord that is doing things that are sort of illegal and you report them, you have the right for retaliation for going, like whistleblowing or going against them or whatever. So what are your tenants' responsibilities then? As a tenant, you also have responsibilities. So where there's rights, there's also responsibilities. And some of your responsibilities include that you need to pay your rent on time, that when you agree to pay your rent, you need to pay your rent on time. If there's late fees, the landlord has the right to charge you the late fees. You need to keep the property clean and safe. This means you need to do regular cleaning, you need to have proper waste disposal, and you need to avoid damage. So you need to basically protect the property. You need to use the property for lawful purposes. In other words, if you're renting a property and you want to use it for an unlawful purpose and you're engaging in illegal activities on the premise, this could result in eviction and legal consequences. You have the right to report problems to the landlord. If, something like the aircon stops working, you're in an area which is providing air conditioning for you, or the heating or the plumbing has a problem, you should report that to the landlord. You should pay for damages caused by your own negligence. So this really is one of the big ones. For your own negligence, you should pay for damage. This does not include things which are normal wear and tear, but covers any incidentals or careless damage. You should get receipts for paid rent and bills. You have the right to ask for a receipt for when you pay your rent. And if your landlord refuses to give it to you, you need to demand it, because it's very important that you have a receipt for when you pay for the rent. You need to respect your neighbors. Tenants have the responsibility to their neighbors. And especially if you're living in tight quarters or an apartment building, you need to make sure you respect your neighbors and their privacy. You also have other protections and obligations. You're protected from harassment and discrimination. You can have Tenants may be required to respond to annual inquiries from their landlords related to safety and maintenance, such as, window guards or other type of things which have to do with safety and management. You can, if your landlord's asking for these annual type of things, you're going to go through them, annual inquiries that relate to safety and management. So one of the main things is understand your lease agreement. Make sure you have a good communication with your landlord. We cannot stress this enough that having a good, open communication with your landlord can make all the difference in the world. So make sure that you and your landlord are in good terms, that you two can, speak, talk to each other. That will make all the difference in your tenant and lease agreement. And maintain the property, clean it regularly. Do things to prevent damage, and try to follow the rules. If you find that you have a very difficult landlord or you're in a very difficult situation, we really suggest that you seek legal help. And not just any type of legal help. Get a lawyer who understands real estate law. So, you really want to be with a lawyer who understands the law, who knows your rights, and so that they will be able to help you with the local laws. If you're not able to do that, seek out legal aid. There might be a legal aid service that might give you free or low-cost legal assistance to tenants. And seek them out and see what they can do to help you. And, if there's some complaints about things, file your complaint to the local housing authorities. Take legal action if necessary. You should know, when should I take action? Well, if there's harassment or discrimination taking place, if there's uninhabitable conditions, like the conditions are not inhabitable, and if you're feeling like there's some retaliations being taken, if you find like even your landlord coming into your property without your without you giving the permission to, those type of things, you may then have to decide that you have to take some legal action or get some legal help and decide what the next steps will be for this. We've written a blog post on this, which is entitled Understanding Tenants' Rights and Responsibilities in the United States. And even though this is specific for the United States, it is actually something which can be, which basically there may be similar laws throughout the world, because a lot of times the tenant and the real estate laws, even though they are different, but there could be ones that are actually very similar. Like, for example, no matter where you are in the world, make sure you read your lease agreement and know exactly what you're signing and understand who is responsible for what repairs. If you're responsible for the aircon repairs or not responsible for it, or your landlord is, make sure that you fully understand all of those type of things whenever you are renting a building. This is Anita from Real Estate Crunch. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you'll subscribe, give us a thumbs up, comment, be part of our community. All these things really do make a difference, and they do help with the algorithms. They help so that others can be able to find us and be able to find our podcast, or others can be able to find our video. Thank you so much for being part of our community.